Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, allow the Leader of the Opposition, please.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance can't help himself. He boasts about how they can raise $500 million, how they could raise $500 million, but he doesn't say that it's for 2 months, and correct me if I'm wrong, the people who are receiving public assistance cannot get that money on time. That is a government that's boasting about management of the economy, and the people on public assistance have not got the money, and if they've got it, they just got it, but I'm sure that it was very late for the people on public assistance. That's a government that boasts about managing the economy. Mr. Speaker, that's a government, the Prime Minister speaks about lockbox. I ask the question again, how much money is in the lockbox for fuel? He speaks about the lockbox for the airport. I want to find out how much money is in the lockbox for fuel, how much was collected, and where in the estimates of expenditure is the money collected for the lockbox for fuel. And as we speak, talking about fuel, Mr. Speaker, fuel in Dominica is $7.50 a gallon. And in St. Lucia, it is still $11 and something cents a gallon. How much money is the government making on every gallon of fuel as we speak? That is the same government that held an orange march up and down the streets and promising every day to come in this parliament and prove that they were making $6.80 on fuel. Up to today, they have burdened the people of St. Lucia with at least $5 more on every gallon of fuel. And you speak about managing the economy. At least, you are making $5 more on every gallon of fuel because you refuse to reduce the price of fuel for the people of St. Lucia. And you're not saying how much money you've collected in that lockbox. Then we go to the whole story about the airports. We'll come back to that in a while, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know what I'm proud of? I'm proud, and get me, and don't misquote me as the customer says, Mr. Speaker. I am proud, Mr. Speaker, that the government that I served in spite of inheriting a fiscal deficit of 7%, in spite of inheriting a fiscal deficit of 7%, did not have to go to the IMF, and not paying, and not buying a tent for $100,000 US. Didn't have to go to the NIS, the IMF. I'm proud of it, Mr. Speaker. I'm very proud, Mr. Speaker. I'm very proud. In spite of the fact, and I'm not saying that this letter is a letter that's looking for IMF structural assistance. But again, it's the attitude of the Prime Minister. Oh, he wasn't bound to make, he didn't have to make that letter public. Mr. Speaker, this is not a Prime Minister's personal letter, you know. This is not his personal business. This is the business of the people of St. Lucia. This arrogance about believing my police, my this, my that. This arrogance, Mr. Speaker, come in and grant charge as if he's doing people a favor because he's showing them a letter that he wrote to the taxpayers of the country, a letter that the taxpayers will have to pay. Don't come and doing any favor to people by reading a letter that you wrote to the IMF. That's no favor. You're not doing anything that is something that is you have to boast about, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, this again, Mr. Speaker, misstating the facts. If you look at the estimates, if you look at the estimates between 2021 and 2019, Mr. Speaker, you will see that tax revenue,
Honorable members,
that tax revenue was already reducing. This government collected less tax revenue this year than they collected last year. As I'm going to talk about the economy, less tax revenue, all the revenue they projected to collect this year, because the economy did not perform as it ought to perform, they collected less revenue. And the details, Mr. Speaker, the details are in the estimates of revenue, Mr. Speaker. And if you challenge me, I will tell you exactly the reduction in revenue that this government experienced, Mr. Speaker, and you come boasting about managing the economy and how you did so well in managing the economy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that the economy had grew by 4%. The Social and Economic Review says it grew by 1.8%. The Prime Minister said that the economy grew by 4%. When he addressed the nation during one of the COVID addresses, he said the economy grew by 4%. And I challenge him to get the address and make it a document of the House, and we'll see where he said it. That the economy grew by 4%, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the current account, Mr. Speaker, had already deteriorated before COVID. Long before COVID, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the revenue, this government's revenue, the revenue performance was less this year than was projected, and it was also less this year than last year. So don't come and this boastful thing about managing the economy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government found an economy that was on an upward trajectory, Mr. Speaker. They found two hotels completed. This government has not built one hotel in 4.5 years. Not one hotel, Mr. Speaker. Not one hotel. I want you to point on me which hotel have you built in the 4 years, and which hotel that has been built when the Prime Minister was Minister of Tourism.
Right. It had nothing to do with it. That to do with you.
Mr. Speaker, let's go. Let us go, Mr. Speaker, and speak about this IMF loan that the Prime Minister pretends is only St. Lucia that applied for the IMF loan. Mr. Speaker, Dominica and Grenada got the same IMF loan. It is not St. Lucia. It wasn't anything spectacular by the Prime Minister that we got an IMF loan, an IMF rapid credit facility. It wasn't anything spectacular. And a big master plan manager of the economy. The same loan was received by Dominica, Grenada, and St. Lucia. And St. Vincent, Mr. Speaker. Oh, Mr. Speaker, let us examine how and what purposes was the loan given to the government of St. Lucia. What were the purposes, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister pretends as if COVID only affected St. Lucia. That is the pretense that he is trying to imply, that COVID only affected St. Lucia. That's all.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Alone.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
My yard is fed.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Have a seat, sir. Honorable members. Honorable members.
Ladies.
I need to hear the Leader of the Opposition. Honorable member.
Take it easy, ladies.
Honorable members, I need to hear the Leader of the Opposition. You may continue, sir.
Mr. Speaker, so the Prime Minister comes in this house grand charging as if he did some magic and that the IMF gave some money because he managed the economy so well and he made promises to the IMF, Mr. Speaker. This loan was given to Dominica, St. Vincent and Grenada also, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, look at what the IMF gave the loan for. Because, again, anything that happens that is good because of the government's management of the economy, we are great managers. But anything that they fail on, COVID, some problem, anything, Kenny, anything they fail on, Labour Party, you all were there too. Anything that they fail is somebody else's fault. But anything that goes well is because they are the ones who manage the economy. They are such great managers, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, he won't tell you that COVID is affecting the entire world in the great United States. COVID. So to pretend that you are doing something exceptional, Mr. Speaker, because of COVID, it just shows how this is disingenuous, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if this government had managed the economy as they say they had managed, they would not have found themselves in a situation where less than 7 days after COVID, or less than 7 days after you closed your country, you'll find yourself in a position where you had to tell your civil servants to take half of their salary. If you had any surpluses, as you said, you would not have found yourself in that position, Mr. Speaker. It's because you had no surpluses, because you had nothing in reserve. That is why you found yourself in that situation. Don't come boasting, because the economy this year did worse than last year without COVID. The economy performed worse this year than last year without COVID. And it's clear in the statement, the economy did worse this year than it did last year before COVID. And that's a fact, Mr. Speaker. It did worse. Mr. Speaker, this government comes with this grand charge about managing the economy. They manage the economy so well, Mr. Speaker. They manage the economy so well. But as the people of the country, as the number of small businesses that are closing down, as the vendors before COVID, the pressure that they were under, as the hotel workers, what they had to go through, the split shifts and the double shifts before COVID, as the people, as the banana farmers who haven't got paid for the crops, ask them how well the economy was doing. Ask the fishermen, Mr. Speaker. Ask them how well the economy was doing, Mr. Speaker. Ask them. Don't come here in your own mind, say the economy was doing well, without any evidence about the people of the country. Ask the people who have to buy things, groceries, at a higher price in the supermarkets and complain every day about the cost of goods in the supermarket. Tell them that the economy is growing. Tell them so. Tell them, Mr. Speaker, tell them that the economy is growing. Mr. Speaker, listen to what the IMF, the rapid credit facility of the IMF, is intended to do. It says, to address the pandemic, the authorities announced measures to help employees and households, including income support to the unemployed, tax relief, and providing cash transfers to the most vulnerable and affected. 3 months after COVID, this government still intends, they intend to help the unemployed. We are in the month of May. We still have an intention to help the unemployed. What have we done to help the taxi drivers and the vendors and the unemployed from COVID? What have we done? But you still intend to do it, Mr. Speaker. You still intend, Mr. Speaker. But you know what you've done so far? You've just boasted about giving people a hot meal. You think that is such a great social stabilization project to carry a plate of of food for people every Sunday. That's the sum of your social stability project that you've done 3 months after COVID. That's all you've done. And up to now, you have not paid, up to now, Mr. Speaker, up to now, your people on the public assistance, they have to wait for the $250 a month. But you boast that you'll do it 3 months now, 3 months after COVID. You had such a good economy. Things are going so well. 3 months after COVID, all you've done for people is to give them a hot meal, I think once a week. That's all you've done, Mr. Speaker. Further, you speak about you managing the economy so well, Mr. Speaker. You managing the economy so well, Mr. Speaker. You have done, instead of giving people fuel support, what you've done is you've put more tax on fuel. You're collecting more money on fuel than you did before under COVID. That's what you're doing, Mr. Speaker. And what have you done for the agricultural and food, for the agricultural sector? If you look at Dominica, Mr. Speaker, and you look at the basket of goods that Dominica is giving for its food support, Mr. Speaker, you see local food. Local food. You see our local produce, Mr. Speaker. What have you done? What have you done? What you did, Mr. Speaker, is a week or so after COVID, you had some massy bags and you played politics with it, put it in a truck and give to your supporters. That's what you've done. Nothing else. What have you really done for the people of St. Lucia post-COVID? Tell us. The people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker, the people are still complaining about their current and the telephone. A lady came to me crying that her internet was disconnected under COVID. Her internet was disconnected. That is the reality of life for the people of St. Lucia. Why you sit and you boast and you laugh and you clap and you say, there. That's the reality. That's what the people of St. Lucia are facing. Yet you have to ask to bring in old computers because the children are at home and they cannot do their work at home because they have no computers because you stopped the laptop project. That is what the people of St. Lucia are talking about. That's what they're talking about. That is progress. Not sitting down and boasting about you have growth. The growth must be felt in the bosoms of the people of the country. That's where the growth must be felt, Mr. Speaker. And if you go, Mr. Speaker, and you speak to the people in the small businesses, go and ask the people in the small businesses, the people that you've reduced, you want to reduce the demand, because when you cut the civil servant salary by 50%, and you profess that you're going to give it to them in bonds. But why is you saying that? You're still saying that you may have problems in paying people who may not want to redeem their bonds. What double standards are these? What double standards are these? You are complaining that you have to, the bonds may not, people may ask to redeem their bonds. That's what you say. But you want to give civil servants bonds and tell them they have an assurance that they'll get redeemed in 1 year. It's the same bonds. All of them is bonds. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad he mentioned bonds. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister stands in this honorable house and makes the point. It's because his government is managing the economy so well that they could buy on the regional securities market. Mr. Speaker, even though they say politicians say what they have to say, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is very much aware that during the time that we were in power, on the regional securities market, there were about at least 3 countries who were on the IMF structural adjustment programs and were to get a haircut on their bonds. So the market was not as responsive to bonds as it is now, because there were at least 3 countries who were under IMF structural adjustment programs and they had to get a haircut on their bonds. At least 3 countries. Right now, Mr. Speaker, these countries, I don't want to mention their names, but these countries have either come off the IMF programs or they are meeting their obligations under the structural adjustment programs. So there are
Honorable Leader, continue, sir.
Jamaica is on the program. I said, listen to what I said. Don't jump in the fence. Keep yourself. Let me go back and say what I said. Don't jump in the defense. Don't get involved in that, my brother. Let me get back. Let me say what I said before. Let me say what I said. It is your habit of just saying these things and getting away with it. Not again. Let me say what I said. Let me tell you what I said. You want to know what I said? Let me tell you what I said. I said that on the regional securities market, it was very difficult to raise finance because there were countries on the IMF structural adjustment program and they had to get a haircut. They had to get a haircut, Mr. Speaker. And I'm saying to you that right now, these countries before COVID were either off the program or following the dictator program, so the market has got more conducive for more conducive now. That's the point I'm saying. I'm saying the regional security market was more conducive than it was before because these countries had to get haircuts on their bonds. That's all I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So, Mr. Speaker, so this government, in the 3 months of COVID, cannot, apart from the $30 million that the NIC has given. And again, I really don't want to get involved in things without facts, Mr. Speaker. And I haven't got all the facts about how the NIC is disbursing the program. And the NIC is a very important institution, very important. In the documents of this House today, the NIC financial statements only for the year 2018. That's what we're saying. 2019 is gone. There are no financial statements 2019, and 2020, I say 2020, well, we haven't reached 2020 yet. But only 2018. I am saying, Mr. Speaker, that such an important institution, their financial statements should be tabled in this honorable House at the earliest possible opportunity. And it's not correct. And don't jump and tell me it happened before. If it happened before, it's wrong. It's not correct. It's not correct that you can table 2018 statements today. It's not correct. And in the financial statement, a point I've been making all the time, and they laugh, they laugh. That report also says that if we do not take serious steps with the NIC contributions, in 2050, the NIC will run broke. It says so. And when you say these things, Mr. Speaker, you said, and they say it glibly, they say you're playing politics. Instead of saying, all right, gentlemen, that is the point. Let us find a way collectively to deal with it. So it will come away from the realm of politics. That is the kind of partnerships. These are the kind of partnerships that you need post-COVID, Mr. Speaker. But you don't need to sit back and boast, and you have to cry. You just do it. You want to cry. These are not the kind of situations you need in this time, Mr. Speaker. So the position with the NIC is in a serious situation. It is in a serious situation, Mr. Speaker, and we have to deal with it. We have to deal with it, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, back to the IMF. This government insists, Mr. Speaker, they insist, even if the evidence is there, they insist that they reduce the debt to GDP ratio. They insist. There's a IMF report. You see, Mr. Speaker, the good thing with technology and evidence is that you can fool people with your words, and because of your power, they may make you believe that you fool them because they may be afraid of you because what you can do them. But evidence is there. Evidence is there, Mr. Speaker. The IMF assisted the government of St. Lucia in their rebasing of the debt to GDP ratio. There's a big document from the IMF where it showed what steps they were taking to ensure that the economy was rebased. And that is what reduced the debt to GDP ratio. But the IMF also warned, it also warned that the debt of this country was becoming unsustainable. It also warned that. It warned about it, Mr. Speaker. So when the Prime Minister boasts, he boasts that the debt ratio is reduced, etc. He's not saying, and there was a major argument with the member for Cashew South. He is not saying that the volume of the debt has remained the same. It has increased. The ratio, the percentage may have gone down, but the volume is the same. So don't come boasting that you've done so well, that you've reduced the debt to the debt. You haven't done well. The base has opened. You haven't done well. You haven't done better. Don't come fooling people that thing about you did so well that you reduced your debt to GDP. You haven't. The base has opened, so the ratio has decreased. That's what you've done, Mr. Speaker. That's what you've done. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister makes these statements about revenue, this decrease, as if revenue is static. And it's the only reason why that must happen, because he's reduced revenue. So because he reduced revenue, he must cut expenses because he reduced revenue. In terms of the arithmetic, sure. Of course, Mr. Speaker. And the IMF provision, what I'm saying is that in terms of income and expenses, if your revenue goes down and your expenses remain the same, you have a deficit. That's all I'm saying. So what you want to do, that's all to you, sir? Thank you very much. But I'm also saying to you that, no, I'm just a regular fella.
Honorable, continue.
What I'm saying to Mr. Speaker is that what the Prime Minister fails to say is what they call the multiplier effect. Let me tell you what people do with wages. And let's speak specifically about public servants' wages. There's consumption and savings. When the public servant gets his salary, the policeman, the teacher, the civil servant, he does two things with it: consumption or savings. When he consumes it, it goes a few places. 1, he buys food. 2, he pays his debts. 3, he passes something on the side to his friends. 4, Mr. Speaker, you know, a lot of fellas, Mr. Speaker, they have to, they have people that depend on the salary too, Consumption, that's where it goes. They spend, that's how they spend the money, Mr. Speaker. That's how they spend it. So that money returns to the economy. It returns to the economy, Mr. Speaker, because it goes on consumption or it goes on savings. When it goes to savings, Mr. Speaker, in savings it goes to the banks have it for on lending, etc. So when the Prime Minister makes a point, and I'll tell you something, no other country in the region has given the indication that they will reduce their civil servant salary by 50%. Reduce their civil servants' disposable income by 50%. Not even islands on an IMF program. What the Prime Minister of Barbados spoke about is forced earnings, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister of Barbados spoke about forced...
Point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was listening to the member on the opposite side, so nobody has asked anybody to cut their salaries by 50%, Mr. Speaker. Also, in the case of Barbados, it's exactly the same bonds for, if I'm not mistaken, in some cases as high as 12.5% for the year. 50% would be for the 3 months, Mr. Speaker, which is 12.5%. If the member is going to quote, please ask him to quote the right numbers, Mr. Speaker.
Continue.
Mr. Speaker, to the best of my knowledge, the Prime Minister of Barbados has spoken about forced savings. She has not said what percentage, to the best of my knowledge. I wasn't questioning the fact that I've said that no island, no country in the region has up to this day, asked their civil servants to take a reduction of disposable income by 50%. That's what I said. Mr. Speaker, that's people's lives you're dealing with, you know. That's not a matter of, that's not semantics, you know. These are people's lives. That's serious business, you know. It's not semantics about it, you know. These are people's lives, Mr. Speaker. These are people's lives. You don't take it for a joke, you know. These are people suffering. Don't take it for a joke. These are serious things, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, so the IMF gave them money for income support. They gave them money to ease the impact of COVID, and they gave them money to help employees and households, including income support to the unemployed, tax relief, and providing cash transfers to the most vulnerable and affected. And I'm saying to you, Mr. Speaker, up to this day, that money, that has not happened for the people of St. Lucia. Well, Mr. Speaker, a more fundamental thing. During the estimates, I said that the IMF rapid facility was being used to fund other projects. Now, I am not in any way saying that the other projects that the money is being used to fund are right or wrong. I'm not getting involved in that. I'm saying that you denied that the IMF money was being used for concrete and steel products. You denied it. When I said so, there was a great denial, Mr. Speaker, that I did not say that. That you not where you got it from, where you got it from. And Mr. Speaker, I have the record in the notes where I said so, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, talking about COVID, I want to just say something on the side, because you hear about things about St. Lucia. Power affirms Dominica as the sole OECS country equipped for COVID-19 testing. COVID. That's on the side. Mr. Speaker. I segue, because I had to segue, because you see, this smart man thing. Anyhow, Mr. Speaker. How much are you going to bring in for this, Mr. Speaker. $11 million, and they had commission of inquiry, everything. Commission, but now the road next to it cost $3 million by direct award, but the Boardon was just built by tender international tender. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's get to now. As I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, I am not questioning if a bridge has to be built or if a road must be fixed. What I'm speaking about is come here and speak the truth. Say to the people of St. Lucia, I promise the people to do this and that, and I'm going to use the IMF rapid facility to do it. I have no problems with that. I'll disagree with you, but say that's what you're doing. Say that's what you're doing. But don't come and try to say this, that, and say that's not true. Mr. Speaker, on page 585 of the estimates, item 0222, reconstruction of bridge. Estimated project cost $46.4 million. Estimates from the IMF $23.7 million. On page 585 of the estimates, again necessary, on Pecan Road, $1.86 million. Source of funds, rapid facility of the IMF. On page 585, reconstruction rehabilitation of roads, $2.6 million, IMF. Page 586, maintenance of public buildings, $1 million, IMF. The same facility. On page 606, and that's where the action is. And that's the one I'm going to question. I'm not questioning the roads. I'm not questioning. But I know we need roads. Up to now. No, I'm not questioning the roads, because you know what I'm questioning is they're not speaking the truth and saying they're using the IMF money for road construction. That's what I'm questioning.
How a bridge can cost for this?
That's what I'm questioning. The point I am making is that come tell the public that you're using the IMF funds to build concrete and steel. Mr. Speaker.
So I negotiated with Japan, and all your talk in this house, you don't have the decency to say it was the Labour Party who negotiated with Japan.
Honorable members.
Genius.
Honorable member. Leader of the opposition, continue, sir. Honorable Leader of the opposition, continue, sir.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, all I'm saying is that do not pretend that you are not using the IMF facility for these things. That's the only thing I'm questioning. That's what I'm questioning. Don't pretend. And you may say that, oh, you negotiated with the IMF to use it. You may say that. I'm not sure if that's true, but you may say it. But the point I'm making to you is do not pretend that you're using that money for what the IMF said you'd use it for. You're using it you're using it for concrete and steel. But listen to what I have a problem with. You're using $7.04 million to close the Viewfort solid waste facility. 7.4 million on page 606. 7.4.
Again, I didn't hear.
Closure.
From the sinking fund. From the sinking fund.
Page 606. Under the Department of Sustainable Development. Item 80300. Closure of Viewfort solid waste facility. Estimated project cost $15,552,499. Estimate $7,744,300. IMF, RCF, free OD, be free. That's where the money is coming from. Mr. Speaker, this dump, and suddenly DSH has disappeared. I want to know how the horses are coping with COVID. Suddenly, DSH has disappeared. No DSH again. DSH was supposed to land on the record of this house. 800 jobs. We brought a gentleman here, and we asked everybody to stand up for him. And everybody stood up for him. And on that side, yes. Everybody stood up for him, and they clapped. We said he would transform Viewfort into the pearl of the Caribbean. That's what we said. And now you're going to blame COVID. COVID is just 3 months. So that's why you haven't transformed Viewfort. Mr. Speaker, DSH was supposed to bring 2.3 DSH plus other investments, $2.3 billion worth of investments ought to come to this country because of the great management of the government of the United Workers' Party. $2.3 billion worth of investment led by DSH. You bought horses. You gave the police, you made the police escort the horses back to the thing. You build a road. Yeah, the horses that police escort. You remember? Yes. The horses, you know this in Lucia? You don't know when the horses landed on the private plane. They came in. They had police escort? Yes. I feel sorry. My father would have turned in his grave if he knew that the government would make him do that. I feel sorry for the police. I really feel sorry for them. The horses came to the horses were given police escort. Yes, they're given police escort. The horses, Mr. Speaker. Now, so then you build a road for $13 million and you say it's for the airport. But you build it for the $1 million, you say $13 million by direct award. You say it's for the airport, for the DSH project, Mr. Speaker. You put on record that the young men in Viewfort like horses. They like to watch horses. They'll kick tail horses. You said you send them to train. You said all that. You said they have 800 jobs. 800 jobs in Viewfort. You would transform Viewfort. And the Labour Party has done nothing for Viewfort. That's what you said. Now you'll blame COVID. The pearl of the Caribbean, yes. And you don't want it to be a ghetto. That's what you said you'd do. Up to today, I want to know who is maintaining the horses. Up there. What did you do? What did you do, Mr. Speaker? To do that, you had a facility that the member for Babano, to his credit, though sometimes he say things he is supposed to say. To his credit, he started the facility, and the member for Viewfort North continued it. We had a spanking facility, Mr. Speaker. A spanking facility. Right now, because of horses, is earmarked for demolition. Why is it for demolition? Why? Then, Mr. Speaker, there is the Bossejou farm. The Bossejou farm, Mr. Speaker, that the Minister of Agriculture again, the Minister for Babano, the Bossejou farm, he tried to create some level of diversification in there. Continued by the member for Viewfort North. We continued the Bossejou. Bossejou was a project that was there forever. All governments took pride in Bossejou. All governments. It was an experimental farm. It was a farm where new breeds of livestock. It was a project that you, Mr. Member for Babano, agreed with. You agreed with it. You've sacrificed it now. You've sacrificed. Then the member for Viewfort North negotiated with the Indian and the Brazilian governments to upgrade the Bossejou farm. To upgrade it. The documents are there because that negotiation started with him. To upgrade it. To upgrade the Bossejou farm. You allow all that to go to waste. You allow that to go to waste for horses in Viewfort. And you said to people that that's going to transform St. Lucia. You had all kind of renderings that you're going to transform St. Lucia with. Now, you'll blame it on COVID. I want to know what is the position of the DSH program, of the DSH project, and these lovely renderings you had in Viewfort. But you know, elections are coming, so what you do is you take a tractor and you begin to cut a road. That's what you do. Mr. Speaker, the intelligence of the people of St. Lucia. You took a tractor and you began to cut a road somewhere in Viewfort to give the intention that something is happening in Viewfort. A road you begin to cut, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, so this government is using the IMF funds to do things that they were not supposed to do with it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what the Labour Party government would have done with the IMF funds. The Labour Party government would give direct income support to the people of St. Lucia. And listen how we would do it. Listen to how we would do it. Let me tell you how we would do it. First of all, I want to put on the record that the $30 million that the NIC is spending on the people of St. Lucia, we believe that the pensioners, $30 million they save for the minimum, and the maximum 80. We are saying that we have absolutely no issues with the people getting that level of support, no issues. As to the mechanism, how it's working, that's for another show. But what I say is that we believe that the pensioners of St. Lucia are so important that the government should make some commitment, even in the longer run, to pay back that money to the pension fund or the people of St. Lucia. We really believe that, Mr. Speaker. We believe it. But, Mr. Speaker, the IMF funds are going to be used for the closure of the Viewfort solid waste facility. Now, look at the logic in that. Look at the logic in that. You have a solid waste facility in Viewfort. You have a hospital next to the solid waste facility. You let the hospital there all the time. We're not going into why it happened. But because you bring in horses, you are taking $7 million of the IMF's money to relocate the facility, plus what you've taken from NIC, because you want to have a disease-free zone for your horses. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, you think that's right? You think that's right? Do you think that's right? We were told that these horses will bring international horse racing to St. Lucia. First they have to wear their hats, women wear their hats, and there's all kind of umbrella to go to horses. Some of them who had suits on them, some of them had yellow jacket and things, so they go into the races. Up to today, I wasn't there. Nah, I was in Marchand. Up to today, Mr. Speaker, now they are going to blame COVID. They're going to blame COVID for DSH. But you're taking the IMF money. Instead of taking it to give vouchers, serious vouchers, instead of a hot meal. Sometimes the food, I won't talk about it. Instead of taking that IMF $7 million and give vouchers, give it to the Minister of Equity to give vouchers for the poor people of St. Lucia, you take it and you're going to move a facility for horse racing. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. And you're going to blame COVID. You're going to blame COVID for it. Everything from now on will be COVID. The world started and the world ended with COVID. Mr. Speaker, 9/11 too, remember? Yeah, you were there 9/11. Yes. Mr. Speaker, here's what, Mr. Speaker, a Labour Party, the government should do. A government should do, Mr. Speaker. The government should give some fuel support to the taxi drivers and the minibus drivers. So give them some fuel support. Because they should give them some fuel support, Mr. Speaker. The government should assist agricultural, and the member for Barbara will agree with me. The government should assist directly farmers. You see the problem with the minister. He likes farmers, you know, but he finds himself in a position where, and forget that. Forget that. Well, Mr. Speaker, the member for Beaufort North has come in here persistently and consistently and spoken about the plight of farmers, the plight of fishers, and the plight of banana farmers, consistently and persistently. But the minister, because his hands are tied, because horses come before farmers, because it's more important to get the DSH program going, we have ourselves in a situation where the farmers of this country are in the plight that up to today, they can't get paid for the banana exports. Mr. Speaker, the IMF money should be used for a farm and fisheries labor support program, which can create jobs and assist in boosting primary production. At least $1.5 million in the $7 million you take to put in the waste facility. You could use it. You can expand the home health program. Expand it. Create employment for the home health people. You could spend $1 million there. That's just 2.5, Mr. Speaker. And there's a rumor that some of the nice workers, and if it's not correct, I stand corrected, and I would like to get the correction on that. There's a rumor that some of the nice workers in certain constituencies have been asked not to work. If it's not true, I will withdraw. There's a rumor not to work. Their services have been temporarily stopped. Mr. Speaker, that $7 million that you look for, you could use it for that, Mr. Speaker. You could use that $7 million for National Landscape and Beautification Program, which could enhance the roadways and the parkways, the STEP program that you criticize, and what you have, the $7 million that you're using to move the rubbish dump for T.R. King. You could use that. I have given you free places where you could use $3 million and help the people of the country to suffer, to help them in their COVID response, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you could give, I'm just talking about only $7 million, you know, not a lot of money, huh? Only the $7 million that you're using to remove the dump in Beaufort. You could use that $7 million, Mr. Speaker, for small and micro enterprises support, Mr. Speaker. You could give each vendor, each small business, you could help them. You could help them, Mr. Speaker, with that $7 million. You could use that $7 million to give the arts and entertainment people, the arts and entertainment industry, you would give each of them a stipend in the months of, that's just $7 million. That's what you could do with it.
Honourable member, you have 10 minutes in which to complete your presentation. Huh? 10 minutes in which to.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the need, Mr. Speaker, up to this day, up to today, the 26th of May, there has been no support for any of these people. Up to today, 3 months after COVID. We got paid? Oh, it's paid, all right. Mr. Speaker, no, I talk about the self-employed and the vendors and the taxi drivers, not civil servants. The self-employed, the vendors, the taxi drivers, these are the people that right now are suffering. 3 months after COVID, 3 months. Mr. Speaker, this government should look to create winning partnerships, should to genuinely embrace, and the Prime Minister made a point that the opposition did not partake in the committee. You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because the Prime Minister came with preconceived ideas, with preconceived notions, and he wanted the opposition to say yes. I wrote the Prime Minister. I gave the Prime Minister a copy of my economic package. He didn't have the courtesy to respond on one point. So how can we enter discussions with someone who has come with his point of view and he wants you to agree to his point of view? And when you've sent him yours, he hasn't responded. How can you have any discussion? That's not discussion, that's dictatorship. That's not discussion. So that is why, so we went to one meeting and then we decided that it was not worth the time to go to that meeting. But again, that is, we're saying that absolutely casting no aspersions on the public servants. No aspersions. We're not going to cast aspersions on the public servants. No aspersions. As a political party, we felt that what was happening there was not conducive to us, and we did not want to be part of it. So we are waiting when the full policy will come, and we are going to debate it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need a new dispensation, inclusive government, and meritocracy, and inclusiveness, not I'll make you cry. That's not what we want. We want to change that disposition in the country. We want to change the disposition where if you're not for me, you're against me, and I'll make you suffer. We want to change the disposition where if something comes in the cabinet, you have to find out who is he and who is she and who they are supporting. We want to change the dispensation where civil servants are afraid to speak to ministers because they're afraid that ministers will treat them with disdain and scorn and contempt. We want to stop the dispensation where there are 4 people in one ministry who were employed recently just during COVID. And when the civil servants spoke about it, they were told, mind your business in one ministry. We want to stop it. 4 people. Mr. Speaker, 4 people were employed in a ministry. It was 4. And when you speak about there are too many civil servants and you could do without them and send them at their home. And Mr. Speaker, such a serious thing as the public service. You think we can treat it with that scorn and that contempt? When the same people who speak about that, they are the ones who make direct interventions in the ministry and give direct orders as to people who must be employed, who should not be employed, and who ought to be employed. The same people who talk about, we say these things glibly, and we believe because you can say it, that people will not know, Mr. Speaker. But regardless of how you try to crush the civil service and tell some of them that they cannot speak, these things come out. These things come out. What's happening in the civil service now is unprecedented. There has never been so much political interference in the civil service ever in the history of St. Lucia. Never been so much political interference. Never been so much political interference. And if you want, I'll list the ministries and what they have done there. Mr. Speaker, this government, Mr. Speaker, this government is not changing. They do not see that COVID has given them an opportunity to change the way in which they are doing things. They haven't taken the advantage that COVID has given them, Mr. Speaker. The advantage to do things differently. COVID is a crisis, but the whole world is in a crisis. What we must do, we must change the way we do things. We must change the way we engage people. We must change the way we do our projects. We can't have projects just for elections. Just because elections are coming, we do things just for elections. We must think about people. Our projects must be people-oriented, not concrete and steel. People. The money that we are taking to spend on doing things that we ought not to do. I'm talking about demolition of the prison. I heard the Prime Minister say something, and he asked me to quote from the letter. But I'm glad he asked me to do it, but I'm going to quote from it. I'm going to quote from it. He made the point that I did not speak to the last page of the letter. He made the point. You were there, Mr. Speaker, you heard him. Where the signatures are. I did say the signatures, but let me tell you why the last page of the letter is irrelevant in the circumstances. The last page of the letter is irrelevant in the circumstances because on the second page, it says, the undertaking is given on condition that the terms set out below are agreed on and on condition that the application for leave for judicial review filed on the same September 28 is withdrawn by the trust. Is withdrawn by the trust, and the injunction order made on the 9th September 2018 is discharged with no liability for damages to any party and no other of course. That's what the agreement said. And it lists the reason. So, because of that agreement, in the back here, because of that agreement, you had to have the other condition, which is the above undertaking is in no way an acceptance or admission of any liability onto the trust on the part of the respondents or any acceptance by the government team that there is any legal obligation on the part of the government solution to submit the development plans to the trust. That's why it was said. That is why it was said. It was said because of the conditions precedent. That is why. Because that the agreement in the front, the agreement was there already. That the trust would have withdrawn the judicial review. Mr. Speaker, so when the problem with the Prime Minister, he believes that he can say anything and get away with it. My police, shut up, don't, stop it, tell someone stop it. Colonialism had a what? A conscience. He said colonialism had a conscience. He believes he can say anything, Mr. Speaker. It's the attitude that you can tell people whatever you want. That's the attitude, Mr. Speaker. That is what we need to change. That's what we need to change, Mr. Speaker. We need to have a more inclusive approach to government, Mr. Speaker. And this is what we are offering you, Mr. Speaker. A situation where we can have partnerships between people, winning partnerships, Mr. Speaker. We need a new disposition. A new disposition. We need a new way to do things. Not the way of top down. We need collectivity. We need inclusivity. We need to be inclusive. We need meritocracy. Not the idea that I'm the boss, I do what I want, I'll make you cry, and when I make you cry, you can do nothing about it. That's what we need, Mr. Speaker. And the COVID gives us an opportunity to change the paradigm, to have a paradigm shift, to have a different country. And we can start, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, we can start. We can start today. It's not too late. The people of St. Lucia can change St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, talking about the IMF and debt, the Prime Minister did not tell us that there is a debt service suspension initiative. When he speaks about debt, there is the IMF, the G20 ministers, they agreed to a debt service suspension initiative. And the conditions are here, Mr. Speaker. And it said, listen to what it said, Mr. Speaker. It said, eligible IMF programs. If you have support under the Rapid Credit Facility, RCF, you can apply for debt service suspension initiative. And here are the countries that are liable, the list of eligible countries. In Latin America and the Caribbean, Dominica, Guyana, Nicaragua, St. Vincent, Haiti, St. Lucia, Grenada, and Honduras are liable for a debt service suspension initiative. So, Mr. Speaker, eligible, sorry, for debt service suspension initiative under the IMF program, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, we believe that this government hasn't changed. It's business as usual. The government still maintains its attitude of dictatorial attitude. It still maintains an attitude where I can do whatever I want because the people voted for me, and you've lost the right to speak because you lost elections. It maintains the attitude that you blame everybody for everything and take no responsibility for your actions. It maintains this attitude, Mr. Speaker. And it also maintains the attitude that you can push concrete and steel a few months before elections and hope, as somebody told me, to vegle the people because elections are coming. Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia deserves differently. St. Lucia deserves differently, Mr. Speaker. And St. Lucia deserves an inclusive government. And when the Prime Minister says that he reads a letter to the IMF because he's a nice fella, he's a good fella, so he wrote a letter. He wrote a letter to the IMF. This is not the. Let me end, Mr. Speaker. That's not the Prime Minister's money, you know. That's not the Prime Minister. That's not any of us. It's the people of St. Lucia. We have to account to them. We have to have transparency on how we spend the money. We are just custodians for the time being, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.